Welcome back. I am Daniel, and this started with a relationship that looked normal from the outside. I was 32 when all of this happened, working in finance, mostly commercial lending, which means my life was usually spreadsheets, deadlines, and long meetings with people who loved the sound of their own voice. It was not glamorous, but it was steady. I liked steady. After a while, steady starts to feel like peace. Jessica was 29. She worked as a social media manager for a startup, which meant she lived on her phone but somehow still made it look like a career. She was funny in a sharp way, smart in a way that made people listen, and attractive in the kind of effortless way that makes you think you are lucky just to be in the room with her. We met through mutual friends at a bar 3 years earlier, and we clicked fast. Not in some movie way. More like we kept ending up next to each other, talking longer than we meant to, then laughing at the same things until the night disappeared. We moved in together after a year. It felt natural. Her coffee mug ended up next to mine, her shoes by the door, my jacket on the back of her chair. We had the ordinary kind of life that people build when they are trying to become more than two separate people sharing rent. We cooked together sometimes, ordered takeout more often than we should have, and spent most Sundays doing nothing in particular. I thought that was a good sign. I thought boring meant safe. Jessica had a close circle of friends, and I got along with them well enough. Her mom liked me. My parents liked her. Nothing dramatic, nothing messy, at least not at first. If you had asked me 6 months before everything blew up whether I trusted her completely, I would have said yes without hesitation. I really would have. And honestly, I thought everything was I really did. Looking back now, I should have seen the changes sooner. They never arrive all at once. They creep in. One late night becomes 3. One new password becomes a habit. One strange excuse becomes a pattern. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid, and I hate admitting that because I am not the jealous type. I have never been the guy who checks phones or asks a dozen questions about where someone was. I believe in giving people room. I believe in trust. But trust is easy when nothing is testing it. The first thing that bothered me was the cologne. She came home late one night smelling like a scent I did not own. It was not subtle either. It clung to her clothes and hair. When I asked about it, she said she had been at a client dinner and someone in the room wore too much. That sounded possible, so I let it go. But at the time, I had no idea that was the first thread in a much bigger unraveling. Then she started locking her phone, not just with a passcode, which she had always had, but with a new password she changed without telling me. For 3 years, her phone had been open around me. Now it was face down on counters, in her hand at odd angles, or suddenly with her in the bathroom. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I also noticed how easy it is to talk yourself out of what you see when you want your life to stay intact. About 6 months before the end, she got a new client named Trent. Yes, Trent. Even now, saying his name makes me feel tired. He was one of those influencer entrepreneur types who post shirtless photos and captions them like they are wisdom from the mountain. Wake up at 5, chase your dreams, manifest abundance. He had a huge following, and somehow that made him think every room should orbit him. He hired Jessica's company to manage brand partnerships, and suddenly he was always in the picture. At first it was normal enough. She had clients, I knew that, but then the late nights started. Trent needs this content calendar done tonight. Trent wants to discuss strategy over dinner. Trent asked me to come to an event for networking. Trent. His name started showing up in our apartment like a third person who did not pay rent but still took up space. I told myself it was work. I told myself I was being unfair. Jessica said he was a demanding client and she was trying to grow her career. I wanted to support that. I did. I even told her I admired how driven she was, but there were moments that did not sit right with me. The way she smiled when his name came up. The way she got defensive if I asked simple questions. The way she seemed to have endless patience for his nonsense but very little for my concern. Then I had to go to Chicago for work in March. It was a big commercial real estate deal, the kind that can make a quarter look great if you close it right. I was gone for 10 days, maybe a little more. While I was there, Jessica barely answered my texts. She said she was swamped. She posted on Instagram exactly twice, and both times she was at Trent's events. That detail matters. Remember it. When I came back on March 15th, she felt different. Not just busy, different, distant. She picked fights over things that had never mattered before. I left a glass in the sink. I did not text back fast enough. I was emotionally unavailable. I was not prioritizing the relationship. It was the kind of criticism that sounds specific but feels strangely rehearsed. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. Then on April 14th, she sat me down and told me she was pregnant. I did the math immediately. My brain went quiet in that strange way it does when something is too important to react to right away. I had been in Chicago from March 5th to March 15th. If she was pregnant, the timing was tight, too tight. I asked when it happened, and she gave me a vague answer. Late February, early March. She said we had been together on February 28th, and I remembered that night because it had been forgettable in the worst possible way. She had been on her phone half the time, distracted, almost absent. I asked how far along she was. She said the doctor estimated 5 to 6 weeks. That put conception around early to mid-March, which did not fit with what she was saying. I did not accuse her. I did not raise my voice. I just sat there and listened while she cried and said she was scared. She told me she did not know if she was ready. I held her because that is what you do when someone you love is crying in front of you, even when every instinct in your body is telling you something is wrong. Over the next few weeks, she decided to keep the baby. I told myself I could handle that. I wanted to be supportive. I really did. We talked about names. We talked about the nursery. We talked about doctors and due dates and all the ordinary future things people say when they are trying to turn fear into a plan. But the feeling in my stomach never left. She became secretive about appointments. She said I did not need to come to everyone. When I insisted on being there for the 12-week ultrasound, she looked annoyed. Not nervous. Annoyed. At the appointment, the technician asked about the due date, and Jessica said December 15th. I did the math again. That date pointed to a conception window that landed right in the middle of the time I was gone. The technician mentioned that due dates are estimates, usually plus or minus 2 weeks. That meant the window was wide enough for Jessica to hide inside it if she needed to. I brought up the idea of a paternity test casually, trying to sound calm. I said it would be good to have everything documented. Her face changed instantly. That was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. She asked why I would even suggest that. I said it was just standard practice, something to keep records clear. She snapped back that if I trusted her, I would not need a test. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. If you demand a paternity test, it means you are toxic and I am leaving. She said it like a final answer. No discussion, no compromise, just a line in the sand and a threat wrapped around it. I looked at her and saw the panic underneath the anger. I saw the guilt. I saw the calculation. And I said very calmly that I understood. She relaxed immediately. She smiled. She hugged me and told me she knew I would see reason. That night while she slept, I researched everything I could about paternity tests. I learned that at-home testing was legal, that I did not need her permission, and that I could use the baby's DNA and mine to get a result. The only problem was timing. I had to wait until the baby was born, so I waited. I played the supportive boyfriend. I went to appointments. I painted the nursery. I built the crib. I held her hand when she complained about being tired or sick. I smiled in photos. I nodded when her mom asked if I was excited. I even pretended to enjoy picking out tiny baby clothes that I was already starting to suspect would not belong to my child. All the while, I was watching. Jessica kept saying Trent's contract had ended, but I checked his social media. She was still liking his posts almost immediately at all hours. 2 in the morning, 6 in the morning, noon. It was too much to be casual. I saw her scroll, pause, smile, then type comments and delete them before posting. That kind of behavior leaves a mark on a person. It makes you feel like you are standing outside your own life, watching it happen without being invited in. I saved texts. I saved screenshots. I built a timeline, not because I wanted drama, but because I needed to know I was not losing my mind. If I was wrong, I wanted proof that I had tried to be fair. If I was right, I wanted the truth to be undeniable. But at the time, I had no idea just how far she was willing to go to keep the lie alive. The baby was born on December 15th. A boy, 7 pounds 2 ounces, dark hair, brown eyes. I remember staring at him in the hospital and feeling my chest tighten. Brown eyes can come from anywhere, sure, but the hair was what got me. It was so dark it almost looked black. My family is blonde. Jessica's family is auburn and light brown. That hair looked nothing like either side of us. It looked like Trent. I did not say that out loud. I held the baby. I smiled for the pictures. I cut the umbilical cord. I did everything a new father is supposed to do while my mind kept circling one thought I could not shake. The hospital gave us a pacifier, one of those green rubber ones. The baby used it constantly. On the second morning, while Jessica was showering and the baby was sleeping in the bassinet, I took the pacifier and swabbed the inside with a sterile Q-tip from the paternity kit I had ordered weeks earlier. I had it shipped to my office. I had kept it in my desk drawer like a secret I was afraid to touch too soon. I swabbed my own cheek, sealed everything up, and washed the pacifier before putting it back. Then came the paperwork. The nurse brought the birth certificate forms and said both parents needed to sign. I asked if we could take it home and bring it back. I said I wanted to make sure the information was perfect. That was not a lie. I did want it perfect. I just wanted something else more. We left the hospital that afternoon, and I told Jessica I would go get the car. Instead, I walked to a FedEx drop box 2 blocks away and mailed the kit overnight. After that, I kept delaying the birth certificate. I said we should wait until she felt better. I said we should make sure the name was right. I said I would handle it this week. She asked once or twice, but she was exhausted and overwhelmed, and I used that to buy time. By the time the results came back 5 business days later, nothing had been filed. No legal paternity, no signature, no obligation. I opened the envelope in my office on December 27th. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Excluded, I was not the father. I sat there staring at that paper for 20 minutes. I did not move. I did not even blink much. It was one of those moments where your whole body knows something before your mind can fully accept it. I had been right. I had been right, and somehow that did not feel like victory. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Then I started planning. Jessica's mom was organizing a baby shower for January 5th. It was late, really more of a welcome baby party, but she wanted to do it properly. There would be around 60 people, maybe more with plus ones, both families, friends, co-workers, gifts, photos, speeches, the whole performance of a happy new family. I acted normal, better than normal. I helped with the guest list. I told Jessica I would handle the thank you cards. I designed them myself. Simple on the outside, polite. On the inside, I printed a message that would tell the truth in plain language. I made sure there were enough copies for everyone. I was calm in a way that probably scared me more than it scared anyone else. The morning of the shower, Jessica looked beautiful. Hair done, makeup perfect, new dress. She was glowing in that way people do when they think their life is finally settling into place. I watched her and felt something colder than anger. I felt certainty. The venue was a country club event space with blue balloons, banners, and little teddy bear centerpieces. The room was full of people smiling at a baby they believed belonged to me. Jessica's mom made a speech about becoming a grandmother. My mom held the baby and cried. Everyone was happy. Everyone was celebrating a lie. The schedule was simple. Arrival, lunch, games, gifts, cake. I waited until gift opening started. Jessica sat in the center chair with the baby beside her. People gathered around, laughing, taking photos, handing over blankets and clothes and toys. I let it go on just long enough for the room to feel safe. Then I stood up. I said I had something to share. Jessica smiled at first. She thought I was being sweet. Then I pulled out the envelope. I told everyone that when the baby was born, I had made sure the medical documentation was complete and accurate. I said I had also done a paternity test. The room went silent. Jessica stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. She asked what I was talking about. I held up the paper and told her to read it. Her face drained of color. She said I was embarrassing her in front of everyone. I told her I was not the one who had lied for 7 months. Then I said the words out loud. He is not my son. The gasps were immediate. Jessica's mother rushed over. My mother looked stunned. Her friends started whispering. Someone reached for their phone. Jessica started crying and said the test had to be wrong. I told her it was not wrong. The result was 0%, excluded, not the father. Her father asked who the real father was. I looked at Jessica and asked if it was Trent, the ex-client she had spent all those late nights with. She did not answer. That answer was enough. The room exploded into noise, people talking over one another. Her mother crying, my family standing up, Jessica accusing me of humiliating her. I handed out the thank you cards I had printed. Inside, they explained exactly what had happened. I wanted the truth in writing. I wanted nobody to leave confused. Jessica called me cruel. I told her I was a man who had been lied to. Then I looked at her one last time and reminded her of the sentence she had used against me. If you demand a paternity test, it means you are toxic and I am leaving. I told her she had been right. I was toxic to liars. Then I walked out. My mom followed. So did my dad, my brother, and most of my friends. Half the room emptied behind me. Outside, my mom hugged me and said she was sorry. I told her not to be. I told her I was glad I found out before signing anything that would have tied me to that lie forever. The days after that were a blur of calls, messages, and people choosing sides. Jessica tried to contact me over and over. I blocked her. Her mom called me a monster for humiliating her daughter in public. I told her daughter had lied to me in private for months. Her father tried to be calmer. He said the baby was innocent. I agreed. I told him that was exactly why the real father needed to step up. Jessica's friends went online and painted me as controlling, abusive, and insecure. For about 2 days, people believed them. Then my friends started posting screenshots, texts between Jessica and Trent, timeline evidence, photos from his events, the paternity test itself. Once people saw the receipts, the story changed fast. The same people who had called me toxic started calling Jessica manipulative. The same people who had said I was cruel started saying she had tried to trap me. I did not enjoy that part as much as people think I should have. It was not satisfying in a clean way. It was just proof that facts matter when emotions are trying to rewrite them. Jessica moved out of my apartment by January 10th. I changed the locks. I threw out the baby items. Some I donated, some I could not bring myself to keep, so I got rid of them. By January 15th, the apartment looked like no child had ever been there. Legally, that was true. I had never signed the birth certificate. I had never accepted responsibility. I had protected myself, and that was the only thing I could still call mine. I want to give you an update because a lot has changed. Jessica tried reaching out one more time after she moved in with her parents. She left a note at my door saying she was sorry and wanted to talk. I threw it away. There was nothing left to discuss. She had made choices, and those choices had consequences. I do not say that with joy. I say it because it is true. I heard through mutual friends that she was struggling. She had been working part-time remotely and eventually lost that job. Trent ignored her. He deleted his accounts after she tagged him in a post with the baby. I do not know what happened after that, and I do not need to know every detail to understand the shape of the damage. What changed in me was bigger than the relationship. I stopped confusing patience with denial. I stopped treating my own instincts like they were an inconvenience. I learned that if someone tells you that asking for proof is toxic, they are not asking for trust. They are asking for obedience. Those are not the same thing. I think what hurt most was not what they did. It was what it meant. It meant I had been building a future with someone who was willing to let me walk into it blind. It meant the person I thought I knew could look me in the eye and let me carry a lie for months. That kind of betrayal does something deep. It changes how you hear silence. It changes how you read hesitation. It changes what you are willing to ignore. And yet I do not think grief is simple. It does not always look the way you expect. I was angry, yes. I was humiliated, yes. But I was also grieving the version of my life I thought I had. I was grieving the baby I had started to imagine as mine. I was grieving the trust I had handed over so freely that I did not notice when it was being used against me. If I could go back, I would not ignore the signs to keep the peace. I would ask the hard questions sooner. I would not let someone frame honesty as cruelty. I would trust the discomfort instead of explaining it away. That is the part I think a lot of people miss. This was not about one test. It was about a pattern of pressure, secrecy, and manipulation that kept telling me to doubt myself. I am dating again now, slowly. I am not rushing anything. I am more careful, but not bitter. There is a difference. I still believe people can be good. I just do not believe good intentions cancel out bad behavior. And I definitely do not believe love means surrendering your right to know the truth. The baby is not my responsibility, but I do hope he ends up with people who tell him the truth from the start. He deserves that. He did not choose any of this. The adults did. So I have to ask you this. If someone threatens to leave you for asking for proof, is it really trust they want, or is it control? Because I still think about that moment, and I genuinely do not know if I made the right call in how I revealed everything. Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, you already know what to do.